Talk segment here. I want to speak to you today about what I wrote in the front of my big book cover. So, if you've been in recovery circles, at least the ones that I was in, when you sit down with a sponsor, they'll normally have you write something in the front of your book. So, for me, I had a unique situation. I went into a recovery room, and that was a Tuesday, and there was a conference being held that coming weekend. I went to that conference, and at that conference, I got to see people that had recovered from that hopeless state of mind and body, and I could see in their eyes. They had clear eyes. In fact, I even recall saying to several of them, like, "You are a beautiful man." And that even now sounds a little bit weird. But what I was saying was, I see clear eyes. I see that you're free, and I want that. And yeah, I did a video today on just my story. If you want to check that out, it's another video here you'll see posted today. But at that same conference was where a year later I actually spoke at that same conference and shared a segment about my recovery journey. So hey, when you get to your sponsor, I started my sobriety date on 4/24 of 2017. It actually started, I think it was probably right around the beginning of April, but I waited till 4/24 because that's my spiritual birthday. And I was like, Lord, let this be the last, let this be another special day. And that's when I started the official date. But I was sober probably 20, 25 days at that point. So I sat down with my sponsor that next week, right after the conference, and we went into step one. And so he had me. What I wanted to do today was, in fact, I even just want you to see as my writing. This is the front of my book. And I wrote down, kind of like as a memorial. They did that in the Old Covenant. When God would come and speak to them at special times, they'd usually do a memorial just to say, I remember when this year when I was in this spot, God met me in this way. And so I did this, and actually I've stopped doing it. Because it was just like I was done with this part of my life at that stage. That's why I stopped writing in it. But I wanted to read to you what I wrote. So I said, the first one, and this was from him, my sponsor said, write this down word for word. I said, I, Mark B., am willing to go to any lengths for a spiritual awakening and victory over my addiction. Mark Baker, and that was on 5/31 of 2017. And then I also wrote in there, I said, P.S. Amy, my previous wife, I said any lengths. That was an important word because the big book uses that word, but I actually, in that last week we're together, I told her, honey, I'm never going to do this again. And I will go to any lengths. I'll do whatever it is. I don't want to hurt you anymore in this way. And so that's what I wrote in my book. That was on 5/3 of 2017. So that was about, 9 days after my sobriety date started. So then it's June 15th of 2017. Oh, hi guys. Welcome. Good to have you. I see Kiana and Lazarus. Good to have you guys. So it was June 15th. So let's see. That was, my sobriety date was 4/24. So if we just said about 15 days, 45. So we're like 60 days. I'm about at 60 days. And from my sobriety date, or from the first of the steps, I'm about 45. It was about 60 days in. And I wrote this in my book. I said, the mental obsession and addiction in my mind broke on, it broke on June 15th, the day after working through step 12 with my sponsor, Scott Kay. So there's one of the promises is, it talks about that, you'll have this spiritual breakthrough. And I just knew it. I knew that it had broke. And so it was June 15th. I wrote that down. Thought that was pretty cool. So now it's 11 days later after that. The obsession had broke. I mean, I knew it's gone, And then I wrote this in my book. In fact, let me go ahead and set that up. I'm going to turn to page 85 in the big book. I want you to read. I'm going to read a paragraph from the big book, and because I'm going to use this phrase in this, what I'm going to say. This is page 85. It's the first paragraph, about in the middle of the page. It says, "It is easy to let up on our spiritual program of action and rest on our laurels. We are headed for trouble if we do, for alcohol is a subtle foe. We are not cured of alcoholism. What we really have is a daily reprieve, contingent upon our maintenance of the spiritual condition, of our spiritual condition. Every day is a day where we must carry the vision of God's will into all of our activities. How can I best serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done." These are the thoughts which must go continually with us, must go with us constantly. We can exercise our willpower along this line all we wish. It's the proper use of the will. Now, I found much of this to be true in my own personal experience, but this phrase, what we really have is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. I mean, that's the epitome of a simple religious idea. I mean, in 12 steps, the view is you keep yourself sober by keeping in fit spiritual condition. In other words, like I'm a marathon runner, so I'm going to run all the time so that if I'm called on running a marathon today, I can actually run the 26.2. But it's up to me to stay in fit spiritual condition. And that's that part of the program that just can become very religious because it's on you, okay? So I just wanted to highlight that what we really have is a daily reprieve. Now, just so you know, both Bob and Bill said they were cured, okay? But they had to come back in the book, in the writing, and kind of change that because, well, you can't be cured. You just can't be cured. You're always what you are. You're an addict. You're an alcoholic. You're always going to be that. Just get used to it, So kumbaya, cry me a river. I mean, that's who you are. And as I always say, if that's who you really are, then the most natural thing for you to do would be to drink. So the fact that I don't want to do this behavior is showing me that it's inconsistent with who I am in Christ. And I'm like, dear Jesus, rescue me from this. I don't want this to be a part of my life. That's the cry of my heart. That's the cry of my spirit. So again, what we really have is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. Well, I don't believe that now. And I didn't believe that on this day. Let me tell you what that date was. So in my big book, it's now June 26th, right? So we're talking basically 2 months and 2 days from my sobriety date. And I said this, I do not want a daily reprieve. I do not want a daily reprieve. Nor do I want to be free. I mean, you might be saying, what is he saying? Mark, what are you saying? You do not want a daily reprieve and you do not want to be free? Exactly. This is what I said. I do not want a daily reprieve, nor do I want to be free. I am free. That's what I said. Man, that sounds cocky. I bet that sounds cocky. But I am not boasting. I am not boasting. That was the truth and the discovery that when Jesus died, I died to who I was in Adam. When he was buried, I was buried to who I was in Adam. And when he rose, I rose in him, in his righteousness and in his resurrected life. I am united with him in his life. I'm literally in his lifeline now. I'm seated in the heavenlies. That's what I believed. And that's when I knew I am free. I am free. And it was tough to stay in 12 steps and remain humble. I mean, this wasn't something I went out bloviating. It's just that's what I believed. And it was true. 2 months into recovery. 2 months after working the steps, here I am, 62 days, maybe 63, 64. And I said that. So now let me fast forward. It was 7/15 of July. That's my son Brandon's birthday. So this is now less than 3 months. Haven't taken my 90-day chip yet. And I said, wrote this in my book, big book. I said, I am not an addict. I am a child of God. It's pretty awesome. So then back to this first statement. When I first started on 5/3 of 2017, I said, I, Mark B., am willing to go to any lengths for a spiritual awakening and victory over my addiction. P.S. Amy, I said any lengths. Then I went in on 7/30. So now we're talking just after 90 days. I went into that first statement. I worked my first statement. And I'm going to go ahead and put this back up here. Hope maybe it can be seen. At the very top. And I've crossed out the word my, because it's like, this isn't my addiction, it's this addiction. It's not me. And then there on that next line, I slashed out addiction, and I said addictive mind. Addictive mind. And that's when I started to relate that what happened here in my mind, my will, and my emotions was different than what was in my heart and in my spirit. Okay? And that distinction was so profound. So profound. Because we are not what our actions are, and we're not what we're thinking. But when you start to get in that spiral, those thoughts are all circling, that you begin to think that all those thoughts are yours. And we don't recognize that sin actually speaks to us first person. In fact, even now,